Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let me find all my questions here. Let me find all my questions here. Yeah. Let's see. What the heck? Are you leaving now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm about to start.
Have a great time.
Thank you. Can I go? Is it possible?
You count to 10?
Yep. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's me, Christina Alabato. Welcome back to my channel, where today I am talking about one of my favorite shows I have ever been a part of called The Mad Ones, written by Kait, Kerrigan, and Brian Lowdermilk. I am so pumped to talk about this show. It's interesting, this show has been around for so many years. It used to be called The Unauthorized Biography of Samantha Brown. It has since changed its name to The Mad Ones, but you might know a couple of songs from it literally over the past 12 years, I think. One is called Freedom. Freedom, freedom, freedom. Do you know that one? Let me be right out of town. Let me be the do-do-do-do. What's the other one that everybody sings in college? Oh, say the word and I just might listen. Say the word and you might get your way. I've heard a bunch of you sing that. Anyway, I am so pumped to talk about the show. So this is a show that I did off-Broadway at 59 East 59th Street Theater in, oh my gosh, when was it? Actually, let me look at when this was. November 7th through December 17th, 2000, oh God, 2016? 15? Let me look at my script. Oh my God. Winter of 2017. I played opposite Emma Hunton. I played Samantha Brown, the title character in the show. It was an incredible experience. So I kind of opened up my chat on my Instagram to see what you all wanted to know about the show. So I'm just gonna sort of talk about the show, let you all know about it if you don't know about it, and then answer some questions. This show has been amazing. I knew about this show before I was ever involved in it because I heard the songs, I remembered them. There are certain ones that like just stick in your head. And so when the show came around and they were actually doing a production of it, I was so excited to get involved. So I think my involvement started the first time that I actually worked with Brian and Kait. I actually did a reading of The Mad Ones before we did the off-Broadway production, and I played Kelly actually, which is not the character I played. I ended up playing Samantha Brown in the production. So I kind of think that's interesting because when the show was going off-Broadway, my agent called and was like, hey, they want you to come do The Mad Ones, but they want you to play Samantha Brown. And I was like, oh my God. Yes, this is so exciting. I always connected with Samantha Brown in the script and in the reading. I thought she was such a fascinating character. So I ended up going on to play Samantha Brown in that off-Broadway production and do the studio cast recording with Emma Hunton, who played Kelly. The show is about Samantha Brown, the character that I played, and her journey to discovering herself and moving through the grief of losing her best friend, Kelly. Kelly was killed in a car accident in the show. And this is something that you know from the very top of the show, so no spoilers there. And the show starts with Samantha Brown with her keys. I actually literally have the keychain that I held in the show because the show takes place in a car, basically the entire show, and in Samantha Brown's head. And this keychain was given to me by one of my dear fans, Sam, actually, and I'm so grateful that I still have it. The show starts with Samantha Brown on stage, holding the key, looking at it, and deciding what to do with her life. So the entire show is Samantha dealing with the fact that she sees and talks to Kelly, her best friend. So it was an interesting experience for me to deal with this theme of grief on stage every night. It was really, the show's really heavy. It's amazing because Brian and Kait did such a good job of kind of going back and forth between beautiful memories that Samantha has that she's playing out in the show of her and Kelly and her and Adam, who is her boyfriend at the time, who is played by Ben Fankhauser and J. Armstrong Johnson. Big question y'all asked was, how was it like working with those two men? Amazing. I got to kiss both of them. Don't tell Bob. He knows, but anyway, so it was really amazing to work with this cast. It's just a cast of 4 people. And so the show is basically Samantha and her brain and the processing that she does of losing her best friend and how she can move on and what she's going to do with her life. And I think one of the reasons that I connected so much with the show was because I feel like I have been there. I feel like we've all been there. And I think that's one of the reasons a lot of young people really connected with it. So that's sort of the premise of the show. The cool thing about Samantha Brown is the reason I love her as a character is that she's sort of like me in many ways and also not like me in other ways. But one of the things I love so much about her is she's so in her head. She is such a smart character. She's probably one of the smartest characters I've ever played. Her brain works a mile a minute. Her mother's a statistician, so she has brains. She works really hard in school. And she, at the beginning of the show, you see when she flashes back to her and Kelly, you can see that Kelly's the one that's like, let's have fun, let go, Sam. And Sam's like, no, I have to do things right and I have to do them the way I'm supposed to. And that's part of the battle you see Samantha figure out throughout the show is how to let go of so many things. How to let go of Kelly, how to let go of her being in her own way, how to let go of the idea that she has to do everything right. And I think that I totally connect with that. And I think that was honestly one of the reasons that it clicked so much when I ended up booking Samantha is I was like, oh, we're actually kind of similar. And so it was a beautiful process of bringing her to life. I mean, what's been cool is that we recorded the cast album about a year and a half, 2 years almost after we did the show off Broadway. We recorded in the studio. It took 2 days. It was the fastest thing ever, literally 2 sessions of 5 hours. And I remember me and Emma looking at each other and we were like, okay, let's do this. And we were so nervous because the song, The Mad Ones, if you haven't heard it, is so hard. And we were like, okay, do we start with The Mad Ones or do we end with The Mad Ones? Because what are we going to be able to sing after, especially if we do a couple of takes? But recording the album together and bringing our cast back together and being able to share this incredibly special show with everybody has been so, so amazing. And the recording of that album was very special for all of us. And I'm so glad that you're all listening to it now. And it's been really cool to watch you all discover the Mad Ones. Anyway, so being able to come back and record it was so special, so different from the show on stage. The live, we did the show off Broadway. It was a very fast process. We had about 4 weeks of rehearsal and then we were on stage doing it. Smaller budget shows like that in New York, it's different than Broadway. That was a question you all asked me was, how does it differ off Broadway and Broadway? And one of the biggest things is that it's just a totally different beast. You don't have as much access. You don't have as many tools in creating a show because it's a very limited budget, very limited time. But working so closely with Kait and with Brian and with Steven, our director, and Emma and I having such a close bond as friends outside of the theater and also how deeply we cared for Kelly and Sam. You want it to be good. You want these characters to be put in a light that makes sense. You want Brian and Kate's dreams of the show finally coming to New York to be, fully realized. And so it was definitely a process of trying to figure out the best way of moving the show along and having it all make sense and also, dealing with our time constraints as well. So it was a great process. I mean, there are definitely moments where me and Emma would look at each other and then look at Brian and be like, you think we can sing this? You really think we can sing this? And laughing about keys. And then he's like, no, you guys can sing it. And we were like, wait, you're so right. A lot of people asked me what my favorite song from the show was. The Mad Ones with Emma. That song, when Brian brought us that song, we were like, what? I'm sorry, what's the key, Brian? You want us to sing higher? You want to make it longer? And we were like, ah! And literally, it is the funnest song I have ever sang. It is so hard, but me and Emma would look at each other and it was the funnest that we had all night because there was something about that song that was so just exciting and the perfect example of like best friends, right? Because it like is they're getting along, then it's a fight, and then they're like just living their dreams, and we made up a dance during it. It was just the most fun I've ever had singing. And the track that we have on Spotify pretty much does it justice. It literally is such a bop. My favorite memory of the show was honestly our final performance of it. I remember that last night, me and Emma were saying goodbye to the characters, we're saying goodbye to each other, we're saying goodbye to the show, and within the show, obviously we were saying Samantha and Kelly were saying goodbye to each other, and it felt very final. And so that last night, I'll never forget, like, it was just so emotionally charged. As is one of my, that's what I love about theater, that's what we all love about theater, is that sometimes it becomes really real. And there was something about that was so special for both Emma and I, and everybody, all of the creators. That was a definite moment for us. Some of my favorite memories from the show are me and Emma's bond. We had the most amazing time getting to know each other. We had known each other from the Spring Awakening days. We never did the same production, like the same show, because I was on the tour and she was on Broadway, but we knew each other from that, and it was really fun for us to reconnect as friends and, just get to love the show together and like in turn love each other so deeply that like when the end would come after Go Tonight, which is one of my favorite songs, and one of the things that I loved the most about the show was getting to go tonight, because the show takes place in Sam's brain, which is so overactive, and it's full of memories, and she's haunted by her past. She's haunted by Kelly and the ghost of Kelly and what happened, and that she could have stopped it, and all these things going through her brain, and it never stops. And finally, at the end of the show, after Go Tonight, where it's this huge release, it's a release of everything that happened. And by the end of that song, I was so gone. Every ounce of my body was so tired from the show, just running my brain. I mean, I could cry thinking about it. It was so deeply, deeply intense, and so deeply intense about grief, right? And how strange and complicated and just bizarre. Like, truly, there's no words for how it feels to grieve someone, and what the process is, and that everybody's process is different. And I think that dealing with the theme of grief, which no one ever talks about, was something so specific about the show that I think not a lot of shows do. And I think that song, Go Tonight, on its own, is such a perfect example of grief for some people, which is that it never stops, and it's just over and over and banging you on the head and never stopping. And so I think being able to live that each night on stage, and then finish looking up and seeing Emma and her saying, "You passed, you can go, you can move on." Like, I could cry thinking about it, because she would walk away and it would be time for Samantha to move on. And I think that we all deal with that in one way or the other. I'm grieving the loss of my mother, and I think you want someone to tell you it's going to be okay, and that you can move on, and that life will go without them, but that they'll always be with you. And I know, sometimes we talk about grief and losing someone like in this strange, like, cheesy way, but that's the beauty of grieving somebody, is that you're never going to be without them. And I think that realization for Sam was so specific and special for her to push through in her life, and something that I think about all the time with my own grieving process. And, I think that that's just something that I really, really take away from the show, and I know that everyone can connect to. And I love the last moment in the show. Samantha stands there with her keys, which I'm gripping right now, because literally I'm thinking about the show, and it gives me goosebumps. And she just looks out into the audience and she sings, "Freedom, freedom, freedom." And she's finally free to live her life. And I loved that moment, because the grieving wasn't over, but her ability to say yes and instead of being held back is just inspiring to me as someone that is dealing with that as well. Anyway, that was a long talk about that, but I hope some of you can connect to that idea of grief. It's a lot, and it can be really heavy, but it's also something that we all share and that we've all felt before, and I don't think we talk about it enough. It's hard, but that's one of the things I love the most about the show. Anyway, so a couple other questions that I got. What was the hardest part playing Sam? The hardest part about playing Sam is exactly this, is that I had to go on this emotional journey every single night. It was an hour-and-a-half show, so 90 minutes straight. I was never off stage. I was off stage for a small section of one song, but I was basically on stage singing for 90 straight minutes. If you listen to the cast recording from start to finish, the cast recording we recorded so that you could follow along in a story. So even if you haven't seen the show, if you go on Spotify and push play on track 1 and go all the way to the end, you'll be able to follow along. And I never stopped. It's the hardest role I have ever played, not only because of the subject matter, but because of the relentlessness of it, both emotionally and vocally. Thank you, Brian and Kait. But vocally, my God, it was so amazingly intense every night that it was almost so hard and so high and so difficult that it was funny. And so I would start the show and be like, let's just go, because there's no other choice. I'm either going to do it or I'm not. A lot of people have asked me, like, what do I do with nerves? Especially with the mad ones. I would walk on stage, look at the keys, look up and say, "It starts as nothing, just a thought or a dream." And then I was like, here we go. And then by the end, I would get to the end and I'd be like, I did it. And then I would fall over. But it was such a good experience because it was so challenging for me as a vocalist, as an actor. And I walked away from that feeling stronger than ever as a performer, as someone that could focus and say yes to things that I thought were impossible for me. It made me audition better and it made me stronger and it made me feel like I could do anything. And I freaking love that about the show because I was singing these incredibly intense songs that were so vocally demanding whilst crying. And I was like, okay, I can do anything now, for sure. And so the challenge of that was something that I will never forget. It just lives close to my heart because of that. It was just the best experience, and I'm so glad that you're all listening and loving the Mad Ones. It means the world to me, and it means the world to Brian and Kait and everybody involved in the show. So keep spreading it around, sing the songs, tag me. I love hearing you all sing the songs. And yeah, if you haven't got on the journey of the Mad Ones yet, check out the link to the Spotify album and listen to it from start to finish. I promise you that it will be something really, really special for you to listen to. Yeah, that's my story of the Mad Ones. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Thanks for letting me be vulnerable with you all. Talking about grief can be something really, really challenging, and I try to do it more for myself as well. Please like this video if you had a good time and subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting more videos about shows that I've done in my career. And I'll see you very soon. Bye, everybody!